Hey everyone, this is I'm going to be referencing iPolitics article. It's a little bit older, but I just seen it the other day, so I'm just going to start covering it now. But it's a headline that says PBO unpacks spending black hole that includes $50 billion on personnel. So the public sector, you know, the socialists among us, those that live off of the forced wealth and income redistribution that comes from the private sector, the taxpayer, the wage slaves and serfs in Canada. Yeah, they're living the high life, folks, and this article is going to help prove that reality. Canada's budget watchdog is set to issue a report on an unprecedented examination of the single biggest operating expense in the federal government, the $50 billion spent on personnel costs every year. Parliamentary Budget Officer Jean-Denis Frechette will release the report on Tuesday. It is the first of two reports examining what many consider the black hole of federal spending, direct program expenses. MPs have long complained that they have been unable to get a firm grasp on direct program expenses. These two reports are aimed at opening for scrutiny all the pieces that contribute to these costs so MPs can make better sense of how they impact the bottom line. Whenever governments are looking to save money, the first place they turn to are operating costs, which are buried in the $130 billion pot known as direct program expenses. Program expenses are divided into two broad areas: operating costs and transfers. According to the budget, the federal operating budget is growing to nearly $96 billion, jumping more than 8% more than projected in the 2017 budget, even though the number of public servants working in government has largely remained flat since the Harper government's downsizing. Just last week, the PBO chided the Trudeau government for giving little explanation for decreases in direct program expenses that added an extra $16 billion to the bottom line. The PBO is planning two reports to drill into the operating costs and provide some clarity on program spending for Parliament. Tuesday's report will provide a 10-year snapshot of the cost of personnel as well as provide a 5-year forecast. Sounds like they're adopting Xi Jinping's 5-year plans over in China. Well, hey, Trudeau did say he's a big fan of the communist dictatorship, right?
Justin Trudeau raised a lot of money at a Liberal fundraiser last night, but he also paid a high political price. First, it was the actual invite to the women's only event, criticized for not taking female voters seriously. Now it's Trudeau's actual words, the message he relayed to the crowd. The Liberal leader praised China for its dictatorship. CTV's Deputy Bureau Chief in Ottawa, Laurie Graham, has the details.
Justin Trudeau commands a room, especially one filled with adoring women. But he still doesn't seem to have command of the issues. Here's what he said when asked which nation's administration he admired most.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
It will examine the $50 billion wage bill and all of its constituent parts: salaries and wages, pension contributions, health, dental and disability benefits, and all other employer costs such as employment insurance or workers' compensation. A second report, expected later this month, will zero in on remaining operating costs from contracting and consultants to technology and office accommodation. The PBO personnel report will look at all the cost drivers, including those management can control, such as new hires, overtime, classifications, and negotiated wage agreements with unions, and those it can't, such as inflation and interest rates. The report will show that the biggest wildcard for government operating costs is interest rates and the impact of the pension and benefit liabilities of federal employees. When interest rates go down, the valuation of pension and benefit liabilities go up, and similarly, when rates increase, these costs go down. The previous Conservative government, for example, took aim at operating costs as its main restraint strategy. The Harper government froze operating budgets, whacked accumulated severance pay benefits, health benefits, pensions, and targeted sick leave for savings. About a third of the $15 billion in savings the Conservatives had booked for 2015-2016 came from public service compensation, $3 billion of that from forcing departments to absorb wage increases, $1 billion from making public servants and retirees pay a bigger share of their health benefits, and $900 million from abolishing unused sick leave. The Liberals reversed those sick leave savings, of course. Fucking Liberals. When it's someone else's money, well, I don't even call them Liberals other than, yeah, they like to liberally spend other people's money. With interest rates on the rise, the headwinds that hamper the Conservatives are now poised to become a tailwind that could give the Liberals all kind of extra fiscal room. The government face pension and benefit liabilities totaling more than $300 billion. The $80 billion liability for disability insurance for Canada's military, RCMP, and public servants are the most sensitive to changing interest rates because of the accounting methods the government uses. These liabilities are so large that even the slightest change in interest rates can have a major impact on the government's books. They are also out of management's control and will affect the financial decisions of whatever government is elected in 2019. I would assume they meant elections. Auditor General Michael Ferguson has warned about these liabilities for years and urged the government to update the way it uses interest rates when determining estimates for long-term liabilities. Ferguson, who audits the government's financial statements, noted in his observations of the public accounts that a 1% decrease in the discount rate used to calculate future pension obligations would increase the government's liability by $7.7 billion. The government set discount rates that are used to estimate the value in today's dollars of long-term pensions and benefit liabilities. The government has been examining its methodology and is expected to announce a new way to determine its discount rate for 2017-2018. The PBO's 2 studies on operating costs will be central to the fiscal projections that PBO will make as part of its expanded mandate to cost political party platforms for elections. Within 3 months of the election date, the PBO must produce a 5-year economic and fiscal projection as a common baseline for all the parties. The last major review of compensation was a 2006 landmark study by former senior bureaucrat James Leahy. Former PBO Kevin Page examined the wage bill in a 2012 report and found the average public servant cost $114,100 with pensions and benefits, and at that rate could hit nearly $130,000 by 2015. That's per year, folks. That's your average public sector worker. That's averaged out across all, was it 4.1 or 4.2 million of them in Canada, which is already a ridiculous number in a country that only has 36 million people. And if you take the people that are 18 or under, or what, 70 and older, that represent, I don't know how many of that fucking 36 million that are actually working age adults. But think about the representation of 4.1 million or 4.2 million of them working for the public sector and making, on average, back in 2012, 114,000, and even by 2015, 130,000. This is 2018. What the fuck are they making now? Your average public sector worker. How many of those are you in the private sector? Doing all the work, producing all the wealth, and generating all the income in society, doing all the real work that produces real wealth. Are you being compensated in this way? Are you going to have a nice gold-plated pension when you're done toiling and working for like 50 years of your fucking life in the private sector? Nah, you're going to be thrown to the dogs. You're going to have nothing. Well, piddly change, right? Even with all that money the government steals and confiscates from you for the CPP and all these social safety nets, you'll get peanuts back in return. And a lot of you people, especially Gen Xers or millennials, you'll probably get fuck all. You'll be thrown to the dogs at that point. Boomers will soak up whatever little bits left in that, well, the last remaining aspects of that extended credit card that the fucking parasites in government keep. Like they're going to keep pumping that up until they run out of fucking other people's money to spend. Well, when that time finally comes, and it will come. It's just reality. It's just math, folks. And when that time comes, like I say, the rest of us, we'll all be like, what about me? What about us? Well, they don't give a fuck. Hey, they got theirs. And just like John Maynard Keynes is, hey, by that time, especially all the boomers, they'll be so close to death. It's like, hey, whatever. I enjoyed it for like, what am I, like 80, 90 years old? Hey, pull the plug on me now. I don't give a fuck. I get to enjoy all this shit for 80, 90 years. And, well, I guess I knew I was going to have to pay the piper eventually. So, hey, what the fuck, right? Like I say, if you keep waiting, folks, like I say, these people are they're just hoping and praying that nobody will rock the boat anytime soon. Because if you don't, well, they're just going to all keep benefiting from this shit. You know, lots of boomers already retired, living high and mighty with those gold-plated pensions while we're out there, and while, you know, my kids or my grandkids are all out there probably going to have to fucking work and toil away, you know, in these fucking shit fucking jobs or these fucking minimum wage fucking, because all the real economic growth has been basically mostly destroyed because of these parasites and destroying people's natural and proper incentives. So, like I say, it's not looking good for the rest of us, but this was actually the most important part of the whole article. I'm glad I got down this far, because this was the most important part that I wanted to point out to the rest of you. Think about it. Even back in 2015, about $130,000 a year for these fucking... I mean, have you seen people that work for government? What do they produce? You could think about how many people that just in your daily activities or anytime you ever deal with any government service, think about how many of those people that you could eliminate their jobs completely and you wouldn't even notice they were gone, right? But yet they're being paid these ridiculously overinflated wages that are pegged to like inflation and shit, where none of us in the private sector have that capacity. We're all like working on, what is it? The average private sector salaries now are basically in line, adjusted for inflation, for what they were 40 years ago. 4 decades, those of us in the private sector now, we haven't gained any ground at all. It's just, you know, inflation goes up, we get a little bit of wage. Inflation goes up, but inflation's always ahead of us in the private sector. Whereas if you're the government, you're part of the ruling class, so you don't have to worry about any of that shit. Because, hey, the private sector will take care of you, or bonds, or, you know, the labor, the productivity of future generations. Don't worry, we'll steal from them and we'll take care of you now. Don't worry. And the fuckers, they'll deal with it. And if they revolt, then whatever. Hey, we got the creditors to at least give us the ability to live our high and mighty lifestyles in the here and now. So, like I said, once again, like John and Maynard Cade said, in the end, we're all dead. Whatever. Anyways, I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video below. But I mean, I'm trying here, folks, all the time, every day, basically, trying to help you out, trying to educate and inform you. If you don't ever share my videos or any of my material, well, there's other people that probably could use that information, probably could use that kind of education as well. So this is one of those things where, you know, I do it for free, and sharing is free. You just have to hit that share button, right? So it's all free. So if you're unwilling to share or try to help educate and inform other people, well, it's not just hurting them. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt a whole lot of people. So you might want to think of that going forward. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.